YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and today I've got a 2v2 for you. Some of y'all liked the last one I did, so I jumped into a 2v2 that I saw online, and I think it was the Peter Joy and this other guy with all dashes for his name hosted this one. My teammate was Omega Waves. We played as a Seleucid Spartan Alliance versus Macedon Rome. So the army you see me bring here was pretty purposeful. Rome is a very strong contender in a 2 versus 2, especially when my opponent has picked Sparta, because Rome just trounces Sparta. And of course, Seleucids ought to be able to beat Macedon in most scenarios. But you know, again, it all depends on the players who are handling these factions. But I brought a strong faction because my opponent brought what I would consider to be a fairly weak faction. Rome is a pretty strong faction. I wouldn't consider Macedon a weak faction, but they're certainly not one of the power factions. And it was like a 15,000 something talent funds match, so it was pretty large. You can see my army's pretty large, and you were allowed to bring up to 40 units. So this is going to be a pretty large 2v2. I have 6 Median Cav. I have 2 Camel Spearmen. My general is in an Armored Elephant. Armored Elephants are very expensive now, 2,100 talents, but still extremely strong units, something to be feared. On the battlefield, you definitely need to deal with these guys if you're facing against them. I've got, I think it's 5 Persian light archers, and then I have like 10, I think it's 10 thorax swords. I'll let you see the overhead. Right when the battle started, my opponent left the game, which means that his army is now AI controlled. And at this point, the Roman player and the Macedonian player were like, hey, do you even want to keep playing because your opponent left? And I was like, whatever, I'll go down in a blaze of glory. So I was just like, it doesn't matter to me, let's just have some fun. So yeah, I have an AI teammate right now, which is always questionable. Now, the real question though is what difficulty setting the host of the game had the AI set on. That I do not know, because if he set it on like very hard or something, then that means that these guys, even though they're going to be poorly commanded, will have like huge bonuses and buffs to their statistics. Possibly. I don't know if that holds up in a multiplayer match where the AI takes over. So my plan here was I wanted to face against Rome, and I had brought an army that I thought was going to be good for it. But my opponent, or my teammate, lined up against Rome, as it turned out, so I was just like, alright, well, I'll face Macedon. And the reason I wanted to face Rome is because I think I have the tools to destroy Roman infantry, which is Indian armored elephants. And I also have very good melee cav. So some of you might be wondering why I didn't bring Azet Knights. I'm not really convinced, and I haven't used them. Tell me all if you have really tested Azet Knights. I honestly think this Median Cav is a better deal. It's quite a bit cheaper. It's not near as good, but you can field basically 2 of them for the price of 1 Azet Knight. And I'm just not convinced by the stats on the Azet Knights that they're worth it. So I don't know. Let me all know what you think. Again, I haven't really researched them. The Spartan AI player is approaching the Roman. The Roman's got 3 auxiliary Syrian archers, a line of Triarii, and then he's got a Praetorian Guard here, and a whole bunch of Evocati cohort, and his own elephant unit, and another Praetorian Guard, and then he's got 3 auxiliary cav on the flanks that are going to be engaged by the Spartan citizen cav. That's not going to go good for the Spartan citizen cav. The Macedonian player has a bunch of hoplites, which in a large funds battle, I was like, really? Hoplites? That's weird. These should have been pikemen. When you consider the strategy that he's using here, he's kind of spear boxing, because he wants to keep my cavalry away from his Cretan archers, and he has 4 mercenary Cretan archers, which is a substantial force, or 5 of them, sorry. But at the moment, I'm focus firing my Persian light archers onto certain targets. I've got 2 of them focused here, and my Macedonian opponent is focusing on these these Tarentine cav from the Spartan. I was able to destroy this auxiliary Syrian archer and push it back, and now I can keep using my archers to basically destroy enemy archers. So the whole goal of my archers at this point is I just want to destroy all enemy archers. If I'm able to do this, my elephants can absolutely ransack the enemy troops. And that's what I need here. So if I have any hope of winning, it's going to be ransacking the Roman player and the Macedonian, for that matter, as best I can with elephants. Now my infantry is capable of taking down the Macedonian here. All he has is thorax swords to face me and hoplites, and I've got more infantry than him. So I'm going to do kind of a stall tactic on the Roman and an attack tactic on the Macedonian. So while the Spartan troops are keeping the Roman busy, which they will do a pretty mediocre job, I bring my own cavalry over to support the Spartan cav, because I want to keep the Roman cav out of the fight for as long as possible. And I keep all my other cav on the flank of the Macedonian to keep him in his spear box. And this is going to allow me to charge him from the front with my own Thorax Swordsman, which my men are going to get a charge, his will not. In the end, I should win this fight, all things being equal. And all the while, my archers are going to be focus firing one at a time on his Cretans. My guys have some cover over here because of the scrub. Otherwise, these Cretans would mop the floor with my Persian light archers. And over here, this is just a holding tactic on the Romans. And then right here, he charges his elephants forward. I was like, yes, this is kind of a premature elephant charge. I get my guys into shield wall. His elephants are going to get a somewhat powerful charge, but a Thorax unit has quite a bit of armor, and that shield wall can definitely stop lighter elephant units like the Roman elephants, and then immediately I'm going to start spraying archer fire into the elephants. Not flaming shot, because I don't want to run these guys amok, because if I run them amok, it just means that my opponent no longer has to control them and they're going to trounce my troops. I want to kill them. So again, I just pour in archer fire, and you can see that I only lost 40 men on my Thorax Swordsman and basically killed his elephants. They do have 100 and some odd kills because they're going through some Spartans that were back here and everything too. But yeah, basically a waste of elephants from the Roman player, and I'm one step closer to getting where I want to be, which is to have control of the field to be able to use my elephants. So yeah, again, you can see my Thorax Swords doing a great job there. Enemy elephants are almost gone. This is the last unit. So yep, the Thorax sword fight that's going on over here again, slowly turning in my favor. I engage Thorax swords with his hoplites in the flanks. I'm going to bust through his hoplite line eventually. So again, if we take an overhead look here at the engagement, so I'm my teammate and I are the red players. Let's see, why can I not zoom in? Thought you could zoom in from the screen. Well, in any case, it's finally time for me to engage my elephants. It's still a little early, but I bring them in at the back of this Evocati cohort because I have it's engaged with the Thorax Swordsman, and I want to bring these Evocati cohort out of the fight quickly and decisively. But my opponent sees... Actually, no, I'll go ahead and extricate my elephants there because I don't want them to stick around and get shot by enemy archers. There were too many enemy archers around, so I pulled them back. But yeah, you can see that my attack here is succeeding. The Macedonian is losing here as well, and then I'm still threatening him from behind with my cavalry. So all of his cavalry can't come support the infantry fight because they're worried about my cavalry in their flank, and I've still managed to keep this Roman cavalry pinned down this whole time with just 2 units of Median cav. So very worthwhile. You can see the scare effect from some of the Roman units actually routed this Thorax sword with a large number of men. They'll come back, but I still have Thorax sword units in this area slowing down the Roman approach, and some of the Spartan units are still engaged with his men. So I guess that the Spartans... My opponent engaged these Spartans with his spear units, which I think was a mistake, and he kept his sword units in reserve. He should have just approached the Roman head-on with the sword unit, or the Spartan head-on with the sword units and destroyed them. It's at this point when I think I see a useful gap for my elephants, and it's this gap right here. So what I'm going to do is try and buzz through this gap. Getting my elephants through here is going to have a big-time morale effect on these guys. And then I see a Macedonian Thorax sword with its very thin lines right here. And basically what I want to do is beeline right into here with my elephants, route this sector, because I'm already starting to wrap up the other sector of Macedonian troops. And you can see that his cavalry is losing its defense, and that's basically going to mean my cav can charge in here soon and finally start to affect the battle. But see, the Romans trying to get out and stop my elephants. My guys are going to stomp right over them, and I'm going to stomp right through this Royal Peltis line. So yeah, the best infantry unit my opponent has ends up getting hit by elephants, which is not what you want. And my armored elephants just absolutely trouncing these guys. See, these Royal Peltis were actually beating back my Thorax. Well, they were capable of beating back my Thorax sword, but now they're not going to get to. And see the morale drop on the nearby units, and then I'm going to swing back into the back of this Roman. So now these Roman infantry, which otherwise would have outmatched my Thorax swords, now going to get slammed from behind. Let's go ahead and hit play, see how my opponent reacts. He does have his archers nearby, and he does open up with Flaming Shot. At least I think he does here in a second. Yeah. So I think it's here in just a second. Yeah, I go after the Macedonian cav here. I see them charging my men, so I want to go support my infantry. So I come into the back of the Macedonian cav. And let's see, the Roman player... Yep, now the Roman player opens up flaming arrows at my elephants. This is a huge mistake. If anything, he should have just fired regular arrows, because look, now my men are amok. This is great. Now I don't have to control my elephants, and they'll just stomp at will all over the enemy. So you can actually see their kills are going to start jumping up here, because see how they just run everywhere? Elephants get their kills by running over stuff. And so whenever I don't have to control them and they just run over everything, it's great. And so I'll just pull all my camels back, pull my swords back, and just let my elephants go stomping. And my opponent basically gave me this gift with the flaming arrows. So he should have just used standard arrows because it would have caused more damage. And I used my cav to immediately mop up his archers, who now can't stop my elephants from doing what they do. So now my armored elephants are free to just destroy everything on the battlefield. It's going to be very hard for my opponent to stop them. My Persian light archers were out of ammo, and my opponent charged them with his citizen cav. So probably thinking that he was going to be doing himself a favor here by getting rid of my archers, but it's too late. They're out of ammo. They've already done all the damage that they can do. And you can see that my thorax swords did a great job in this fight, and I'm going to bring my camel spearmen in to chase off his citizen cav, because there'll be a scare horses effect from these guys. And citizen cav's not particularly strong, so the camel spearmen can help scare them out. The Roman player is engaged with some of my infantry in different pockets, and I'm now back in control of my elephants, which have taken a couple of losses. And yeah, they took a couple of losses because they're engaged with some spear units here and there, and they took some hit point damage while they were running amok. But yeah, just doing a great job. My elephants are up to 276 kills. We just tanked out a shield bearer, which is probably the reason why I took some damage, because shield bearers are a very capable unit. Yeah. Armored elephants alive at this point in the game. Roman infantry is blobbed up on one of my thorax swordsmen, so not spread out in an effective manner, and they never could, the Roman infantry never punched through the Spartan quick enough to put pressure on me, and his cav was never able to get through. Look, I've still got a Median cav over here. This is a new one that I charged in. Still have a Praetorian guard and his last remaining cav unit tied up. His cav has been tied up right here the entire match, unable to assist anywhere else. And his archers died because of it. Now look at what I'm going to do. I click a blob attack order on the Roman blob, so I'm going to fix the Roman blob like this, and then all I'm doing is just setting up a rear charge for my elephants right here. So this is classic hammer and anvil right here, and I've also got Median cav charging in at the same time. So we're going to demoralize and destroy all the Roman troops in one blob. This is why he doesn't want to be in a blob. He already does not have a real good chance of stopping my armored elephants because he's lost his skirmishers, but this is going to be even worse. So if there are armored elephants left in the field toward the end, you definitely don't want your men blobbed up to where they can potentially affect it. The Spartan AI player has these mercenary Cretan archers coming back here, and I do believe that they start shooting towards my own elephants soon. But yeah, elephant's doing a great job here, just shredding the last bit of the Roman infantry. So even though I lost my teammate in the beginning of this 2v2, and it was an AI player, I ended up winning in the end, which was pretty excited. I didn't expect this, but just goes to show you that I guess with a little bit of good choices here and there, you can pull off some pretty big things sometimes in Total War Rome 2. Now my opponent was a little upset at how tanky my elephants were here, and this is why I typically don't bring armored elephants, because they are very, very strong. Archers can deal with them, and you can minimize these guys. It's not easy, and that's part of the reason why I don't like them, or I say I don't like them. They're not an unfair unit, I don't think, but they are a very powerful unit, and they make factions like Bactria and the Seleucids very strong. Very strong. And in fact, the Seleucids are particularly strong because the mercenary Syrian elephants, Syrian armored elephants, are cheaper by 200 talents than the Bactrian and the standard Seleucid armored elephants. So they're a pretty good bargain. So the Seleucids are actually a pretty handy faction right now. Now, Air, why didn't you pick those armored elephants? Because I kind of wanted my general to be in the elephant unit just because of the way things worked out. I didn't want any of the other general units. I needed the elephants. I didn't want like a cataphract or any of that other stuff. So that's why I put my elephant or general in the elephant unit. I got a ton of kills in this battle. The Roman player also got a ton of kills. He killed a lot of Spartans. The problem is that he didn't kill them quick enough. And I think where he made his mistakes was he engaged a lot of those Spartans with these Triarii. And although it took the Spartans a long time to kill them, he really should have engaged the Spartans with more of these units. Look how many kills this Evocati cohort got. These guys are insane. He had 5 of them. These Evocati cohort would have absolutely crushed the Spartans, and the Praetorian Guard as well. He had these guys also assisting in the Cav fight, one of them. Probably this one right here that didn't take as much damage because Cav isn't going to be very good against Praetorian Guard. But yeah, I mean, you can see how effective the Roman infantry can be, and that's why I brought the elephants. There's one guarantee, basically, to killing Roman infantry, and it's armored elephants. So that's what makes the Seleucids and the Bactrians and any other elephant faction for that matter a good match for Rome, because Rome's strength is in its infantry. Its infantry is insanely good, and the elephants are basically your counterbalance to that Roman infantry. A lot of my thorax swordsmen doing a great job. I mean, there was only a couple that really didn't do that well. All of these guys down here, and then this one here. But I mean, look at that, 241 kills. Thorax swords are just a good unit. They're not super killer units, but they're pretty strong, and they hold up well in a fight. So yeah, anyway, thought this one was kind of funny. Lost my teammate, but ended up working out in the end. Didn't expect that one. It doesn't make me some kind of like super player or something. Things just worked out in my favor here. I had the right army, and my opponents chose the wrong army, pretty much. And if you look at the Macedonian player here, just almost none of his units getting the amount of kills that they need. And these kills right here were against Persian light archers with no ammo. So not even that ends up being too effective. This one Royal Peltis getting a few kills here, but not enough. So just not the best army to counter what I had with the Macedonian. He had too many elite units here, shield bearers and Royal Peltis, and yeah, I honestly wonder where some of his money went. Yeah, just too many elite units, I think, was his problem. Yeah, he had elite skirmishers and then elite infantry. So yeah, I think that's what did it for him. He just needed some more units probably to be more effective against me. And again, the hoplites just can't pay off. Look, 5 kills, 2 kills. The best hoplite unit he had got 45 kills, which just isn't enough. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this 2v2. 2v2s are interesting to me because they're just kind of a completely different dynamic and mechanic. And when you match up the strengths and weaknesses of two factions and put them on a team, it just gets to be interesting. Thought this one was fun. Good game to our opponents, and good job to my teammate, even though it ended up being AI there. I did good holding up the Romans long enough for me to bring my elephants to bear. So, yeah, it was fun. Hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing off for now.